If you're in your late 20s, in your 30s, or even your early 40s, and you've been dealing with this bone-deep exhaustion that sleep does not touch, or you're noticing way more hair coming out in the shower than feels normal, like is this okay or is something really wrong amount of hair? Or if you're getting winded doing things that never used to bother you, like walking up a flight of stairs, this video might be the thing that finally connects the dots for some of you. Because here's what I want you to know up front. It is probably not just your hormones changing or just getting older. There's actually one specific lab marker that gets constantly missed in perimenopausal women, and when it's low, it can quietly drain your energy, thin your hair, give you brain fog, and make you feel like your battery is running at below 20%. And the really frustrating part is that it doesn't often get flagged as low on standard blood work. So you could get told everything looks fine while you're feeling anything but. The marker we're talking about today is ferritin. It's your iron storage protein. So in this video, we're gonna cover what it is, why it tanks during perimenopause, and what it feels like when it's really low, and what you can actually do about it. One quick note I want to add is that this video is specifically for women who are still cycling and getting a period, even if your periods have become irregular, and that's because your iron needs change after menopause, and I'm going to touch more on that at the end of the video. I'm Kelsey Ale. I'm a certified functional nutritionist and a restorative wellness practitioner, and I'm the founder of Audre. We help women relieve early perimenopause symptoms and restore hormone balance using natural remedies, supplements, lifestyle, and nutrition. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, definitely subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to be notified when we post a new video. If also you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up and a like, it really helps us out a lot. Okay, so ferritin is your iron storage protein. It is not iron itself. Think of hemoglobin as the iron you're actively spending in the day, and it's carrying the oxygen through your blood. Ferritin is more like your iron savings account, and that's the reserve that your body pulls from when your needs go up. Most traditional blood work only checks hemoglobin levels, and if it does include ferritin, the normal range in standard labs is so wide it can swing from 12 to 150 nanograms per milliliter depending on your lab, and that means you could be symptomatic but still told you're within range and fine. Most functional practitioners will look for ferritin above 50 for perimenopausal women, and a lot of women feel best when their ferritin is in the 60 to 100 range. But again, a traditional lab can say anything above a 12 is normal, so you can have a ferritin of 14, feel like absolute crap, and be told your iron is fine, that's not the problem. So why does ferritin tank for women in perimenopause specifically? Well, it turns out that three things tend to happen all at once. First, and I want to say this clearly because a lot of us might not know, but your period often gets heavier before it becomes irregular or stops. And this is primarily driven by the shift toward lower progesterone and relatively higher estrogen. And this can also lead to a shorter cycle length, meaning fewer days between your periods. This is also really common, and that means you're having more menstrual cycles and more total blood loss across the year. And more blood loss equals more iron loss. Next, declining estrogen actually changes how efficiently your gut absorbs iron from food. So the same diet that maintained your iron stores at age 28 might genuinely not be enough at age 38, not because you're eating worse or eating bad, but your iron absorption has changed. And third, a lot of women in this phase of life start eating less red meat or eating less overall to try to manage weight changes. So you've got increased blood losses, reduced iron absorption, and a lower iron intake all happening at the same time. That creates the perfect storm for low ferritin. Now, what does it actually feel like to have low ferritin? The number one most common symptom is fatigue. Not like I'm tired, but like a heavy, bone-deep exhaustion that doesn't improve with sleep. You wake up tired, small tasks wipe you out completely. And this makes total sense mechanistically. Iron is essential for oxygen delivery to your tissues, and when your iron stores are low, your body actually starts rationing. One study looked specifically at iron-deficient women with normal hemoglobin levels, meaning they weren't technically anemic, and found that treating iron deficiency significantly improved fatigue, cognitive function, and mental quality of life. Now, these were women who would have been told that their labs were fine and their iron was fine based on standard medical practice. Symptom 2, hair thinning and shedding. This one is pretty emotionally loaded for a lot of women, and honestly for me too. Hair changes when you're already starting to feel the effects of aging on your body can feel really disorienting. And ferritin plays a direct role in the hair growth cycle. A 2025 study found that women experiencing telogen effluvium, which is that all over shedding type of hair loss, had significantly lower ferritin levels than the controls, which means that the women who were losing more hair had a ferritin of about 24 versus women who weren't losing as much hair whose ferritin was an average of 44. When your iron stores are low, hair follicles get deprioritized. Your body's trying to survive, and hair isn't essential for survival. I'll also be honest and say that hair loss in perimenopause is almost never just one thing. Estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, and thyroid can all play a role too, but I feel like ferritin is a pretty commonly missed piece of that puzzle. Common symptom 3, exercise intolerance and shortness of breath, getting winded going up the stairs, needing way longer to recover after workouts, and noticing that your stamina has just kind of dropped. This is also directly connected to oxygen delivery. This is one that I personally experienced for a long time and chalked it up to just not sleeping well enough, and it turns out my ferritin was a 12. Symptom 4 is cold intolerance, having cold hands and feet, always feeling colder than everyone around you. Same root cause, reduced circulation and reduced oxygen delivery. Symptom 5 is brain fog, trouble focusing, slower processing speeds, that kind of mental fuzziness that you can't shake. Iron is essential for dopamine and serotonin production. So when your iron stores are low, your brain literally has fewer raw materials to work with to make these neurotransmitters. One study found measurable changes in cerebral dopamine receptor density in non-anemic women with low ferritin. So your brain chemistry and structure is being affected before you're anywhere near anemic. Symptom 6 is dark under eye circles that stick around even when you're sleeping enough. It's a more subtle sign, but definitely worth mentioning because it can indicate that your tissues aren't getting or utilizing oxygen as efficiently as they should. Also, if chasing a solution for your under eye circles gets you to do more thorough blood work and take better care of yourself, I'm for it. Symptom 7 is restless leg syndrome, that weird urge to move feeling at night that makes falling asleep or staying asleep really difficult. Research has consistently linked low brain iron to dopamine dysfunction, which is one of the primary drivers of restless leg syndrome. So if you experience restless leg syndrome and no one's ever checked your iron and ferritin status, please ask. Symptom 8 is actually heavier periods. So we talked about how heavy bleeding can be a cause of low ferritin, but it's also a symptom. Low iron can actually contribute to heavier bleeding, which then depletes your iron stores even further, which worsens the bleeding. And it's just this whole vicious cycle that can go on for way too long without anyone connecting the dots. And symptom 9 is anxiety and that wired but tired feeling. On edge, but also completely worn out at the same time. Low iron actually amplifies glutamate, which is your brain's primary excitatory neurotransmitter, which can leave your nervous system running at a high octane much more often than it should be. Symptom 10 is kind of a cluster of symptoms that include heart palpitations, lightheadedness or dizziness, especially when standing up quickly. These are symptoms that are more commonly felt in more extremely depleted cases. I want to reiterate that every single one of these symptoms is commonly attributed and misattributed entirely to hormone changes. And yes, hormones are a factor, but iron deficiency can be quietly exacerbating all of these symptoms, and the best part is that it's pretty easily correctable. So how do you do this? How do we correct iron deficiency? First of all, make sure you get the right labs, not just the regular iron test. You want a full iron panel that includes ferritin. If your ferritin is under 40 and you're symptomatic, it's definitely worth addressing even though your ferritin is technically in range. For rebuilding iron, I always suggest starting with food and diet. Heme iron is the most absorbable form, and this comes from red meat, dark poultry, and liver. You also want to make sure that you pair your iron-rich foods with vitamin C, and then space your iron-rich foods away from coffee, tea, and calcium-heavy foods. Good digestion is also really important. You want to make sure you're absorbing that iron, so pay attention to your gut health too. If you do need supplementation, Iron biglycinate is typically much better tolerated than ferrous sulfate, which is what a lot of conventional doctors prescribe and which can be really tough on the gut for some people. But one thing I want to flag, please don't just supplement willy-nilly. Iron can build up in your body, and if you take more than you need, if you don't need the supplement, it can build up a toxicity. So your labs should guide whether you need it, how much you need, and how long you should take it for. Some people need it ongoing, but not everybody does. And if you're already postmenopausal, this video does not apply to you. Once monthly blood loss stops, the concern actually flips, and we want to watch more for iron accumulation because that becomes the issue, not deficiency. So this isn't a sign to just start supplementing iron if you're in menopause. It is an indication to monitor iron status carefully with someone who understands how your needs change across this transition. So to bring it all together, ferritin is your iron savings account, and it depletes really easily in perimenopause because of heavier bleeding, shorter period cycles, reduced absorption, and lower dietary iron intake, all happening at once. When it's low, it can show up as fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, excess hair shedding, shortness of breath, brain fog, cold hands, restless legs, anxiety, heavier periods, and sometimes even heart palpitations and dizziness. And remember, it's really commonly missed because hemoglobin can stay normal long after ferritin has tanked. Make sure to get a full iron panel, know your numbers, and advocate for yourself if you're being told that everything looks fine when you feel terrible. Because remember, a ferritin below 40 while you're still cycling is worth addressing. And if you're watching this and you're like, okay, but is iron even what's going on with my body? Is there something else happening? We actually made something exactly for this question. Our free hormone symptom assessment helps you identify which key body system is most likely out of sync and gives you tips on what to focus on first to rebalance it. It only takes about 3 minutes and you'll get a personalized breakdown and tips for where to start. The link is in the description below. Watch these videos next for more tips on managing your hormone shifts. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, a little thumbs up, it helps our channel a lot. Remember, hydrate, subscribe, drop any questions or comments you have in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.